Welcome. My name is Katie Brennick. Many of you know me, some of you do not. I am the Training and Development Specialist here at School on Wheels. I'm really glad you guys are all here with us, and I'd like to begin by thanking every single one of you for your patience and dedication during COVID-19, during all of this. I've gotten the chance to speak with many of you over the past couple of weeks via phone calls and email, and I'm just continually really impressed by your perseverance and flexibility and compassion and all of the good things that you have. So just thank you again from me and from all of us at School on Wheels. Now on to the topic at hand. Today, two of our staff members will be walking you through our newly updated social and emotional learning program. Allison Maldonado has been with School on Wheels for the past 7 years. She has a great deal of experience working with specialized populations, and she served as our Skid Row Learning Center instructor until recently when she transitioned to her new role as resource support specialist. Jason Wright has been with us since 2016. Up until recently, he served as our Skid Row specialist. So the two of them worked together for a very long time. And Jason worked very closely with the community, with the students, parents, schools, making sure that our services got out to as many students on Skid Row as possible. Recently, when Allison transitioned to resource support specialist, Jason took over for her as Skid Row Learning Center instructor. So we are in really, really good hands today. A few notes before we get started. You are all muted. This is for just clarity. You may wish to use headphones for better sound. You know, sometimes there's background noise. Headphones can sort of help clear that away. And if at any time you want to ask a question, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you can see a Q&A option. If you click on that, you will be able to ask a question. We will probably be holding questions and answers until the end. So just, you know, patience, please, but we'll make sure to get to all of them. I think that's it. I'll hand it off to you two.
Hi, hello everyone. We're so excited to have you here and to be sharing with us. So let's get started. Super exciting. Okay. Okay, so as Katie mentioned, I'm Jason Wright, and I'm here with my colleague Allison Maldonado, and we'll be talking to you about social and emotional learning, or SEL for short. And so for the first half of our webinar, we'll be discussing the need for and the development of SEL. And in the second half, we'll continue to discuss some of that development, but also how you can implement it into your sessions and in your everyday life. So social and emotional learning is the process through which individuals learn and apply a set of skills. Those are usually social, emotional, behavior, and character skills. And so knowing those things helps you to succeed in schooling, workplace, relationships, and citizenship. And basically that all just means that SEL is about trying to better understand your thoughts and behaviors so you can control and improve them. And so SEL is broken down into 5 categories. Those are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And so whenever I read that list of categories, it reminds me that SEL isn't just for students. It also can be for adults, and it should be for you, because learning those will help you be a more successful person, but also it would help you model those skills and behaviors for your students. SEL is best learned through integration into your everyday tasks, your everyday learning. And like any skill set that you do, it's best done through practice and repetition. That's how you can master it. So just know that you won't be able to do this once with your student and be done. It's something that you'll just have to continue to practice with them. I think we all can note that we have seen times with our students where you can see the stress manifested in their actions, or through their behavior. And so social and emotional learning provides tools for them to help them to better navigate that internal dialogue. It also helps to create better building blocks for their future. And so it's been noted in various studies that children who master SEL skills get along better with others. They have better mental and physical health as adults. And generally, the students who participate in those programs have better outcomes than their peers. So all around, we want to just be able to help students help themselves and the people around them. Because when you can kind of change and control your actions and thoughts, it also indirectly can change how you feel inside. And so we think that's really important for our students to master moving forward.
All right, my turn. Hi, everybody. As I said earlier, I'm Allison Maldonado. I'm really excited to work with you guys on this program. We're going to talk now about conscious discipline. So Jason was wonderful and explained basically the background of SEL, why we need it. Now we're going to explain to you the actual system and the program we're using to facilitate the SEL. So we're using this program called Conscious Discipline. It's the main theory that we're pulling from. It's mostly designed for the classroom. So we had to pull concept that we felt would work really good with our students. And we're going to go over that concept with you guys later. We wanted to remind you here that students' behaviors are purposeful. They're trying to communicate something to you. It's not just to get a reaction, it's to communicate their feelings. They're trying to close the gap between what they want and what they think they're getting. So that's where that behavior is coming in and what we're seeing from our students. The core of our program will be based on this, and it's also going to include other parts of our program of Character Lab from Angela Duckworth. And when we say other parts, we mean we're going to be pulling curriculum and doing the activities from the Character Lab that we've found. All right. So in order to help you understand conscious discipline, we're going to compare it to traditional discipline. So traditionally, the kind of theories and ideas that they follow is the thought of it's possible to make others change if you have the right reward or punishment. So it's typically what they use in classrooms, you know, the color system or the ticket system. We want to switch that to conscious discipline, which is basically telling students that you can control yourself and it's going to profoundly impact the way that you communicate with other people. Traditionally, they're trying to say that rules should govern your behavior, but in conscious discipline, we're trying to say that that connection, that empathy you feel with each other, that emotional connection is going to help with that behavior because it's going to in turn connect with your feelings. Finally, with traditional discipline, they're talking about conflict is a disruption and it should be avoided. So typically, if you have a student who's being disruptive and being loud in the classroom, the goal is to get them quiet, but they're trying to communicate something to you. So we should be using that as a form of communication to figure out why they're having a hard time staying quiet. A quote that we found that really works with all ages to kind of explain this is from John Wooden from UCLA. Things turn out best for people who make the best of the way things turn out. So it's just a really nice way of saying that your mindset and the way you're thinking about things is going to help you with the situation that you're currently in. All right, so now we're going to get into the little bit of science portion of conscious discipline. We want everybody to see that every behavior stems from the brain, and everybody has these different brain states is what they're called. So you're either going to be in survival mode, you're going to be in an emotional state, or you're going to be in an executive state. The goal is to be in that executive state. We want to recognize which state our student is currently experiencing. We're going to go over them in more detail in a little bit. But our goal is to figure out which state our student is currently in, because that's what they're trying to communicate through their behavior. The brain is very pattern seeking. So the trauma that they've experienced has caused them to react in a certain way, and those patterns have stuck. So their brain is going to react to those patterns that they've learned. Our goal is to work our way from the survival state up to the executive state. And we're going to go over a component later called the DNA method that's going to help you revolve through those states. All right, so our first one we're going to talk about is the survival state. When people hear survival, they automatically think fight or flight. That's true, but there's also some other components known as freeze and fawn. We have a lot of our students that fall under these two categories. Freeze is those students that are just going to shut down. They're just going to stare. They're just going to kind of look at you because that's their survival, to just regress and to shut down. Fawn is another way of explaining the students that submit, that they're just going to do whatever is told to them, and they're just going to give in even if it's not appropriate because they're in survival mode and their goal is just to follow directions and listen. So we want to recognize that when students are in this state, this is when they're going to be feeling tense. They might be a little bit of alert, and it's just instinctual. So they're going to react this way without might not even realizing why they're reacting this way. The most important step, we're going to go over this later, but just a footnote now, is if you notice your student is in this state, the most important thing you can work on is breathing. Breathing. Like I mentioned, they're going to be tense, they're going to be alert. That breathing is going to help take them out of that tense state and bring them into a proper alertness. All right, now we're going to talk about the emotional state, okay? In the emotional state, this is where it's going to trigger those preset beliefs, those preset things that were placed in the student's head or brain. So it might be those beliefs of they're not good enough, they don't know what they're doing, they can't read. You know, those things that might have been ingrained in them from bullies, family, teachers, themselves. So they're going to be experiencing those emotions and those thoughts when they're in the emotional state. In this state, the student might not even be listening to you. They're in their head. They're internally thinking about those emotions and those preset beliefs. So your goal in this state is to express that empathy. They need connection. They need somebody to understand so they can get out of their head and have that connection with someone else. So in this state, you're going to want to remind students to be safe, that they are safe, and that you understand what they're feeling. All right, emotional executive state. This is the goal. This is where hopefully everybody's in right now, which is a relaxed alertness. It means that you're relaxed. You're listening, you're focused, hopefully, but you're also alert. So you are paying attention to sounds. If somebody knocks at the door, you're going to pay attention to that, but it's not going to freak you out. So that's that relaxed alertness where you're able to react in an appropriate manner. This is where you're breathing properly and you can solve those problems that may have triggered you. And even if you don't solve them, you're able to refocus away from them. So this is our goal of where we want our students to be. All right, now we're going to look at learned patterns and those feelings. So this is where I'm going to have you guys kind of reflect on yourselves and the way you've interacted with students, the way you interact with others, and the way you kind of talk to yourselves as well. We have this quote here that I really like. You can't regulate that which you do not know you're feeling. So right away, if a student is exhibiting a behavior, they might not even realize if they're sad, angry, confused, disappointed. So if you're asking them to behave a certain way or relax, they might not know how because they don't know how they're feeling. So we want you guys to keep that in mind, that behaviors stem from those preset beliefs and it triggers. So there might not be that thought process that's like, this happened, I'm angry, I'm going to be this way. So remember that when you're working with your student and saying, how are you feeling? Are you okay? They might not know how they're feeling, which is why they're not answering. All right, so now we're going to do a fun little example that we call the ice cream example. So this is where we talk about those learned patterns, the way you might react without realizing your own preset triggers. So the example we're going to do here is you're sitting at your session. Well, used to be sitting at your session, and the student walks in and they visibly look upset. And you see behind them that they dropped an ice cream cone. Okay, so you know there's ice cream on the floor, they're upset, the ice cream's gone. One reaction is to save the day, to go in there and say, you know what, here's $5, go fix it, go get another ice cream, problem solved. Okay, another reaction might be just ignore it and just say, oh yeah, well, let's get to work, let's get going. Another way is to punish them. and to say, you made that mess, you go clean it up, stop crying, we don't want to hear it, just fix this. Go outside until you're done. You know, that's might be one reaction, is to automatically punish. Dismissing is just saying, it's just an ice cream cone, you'll be fine. You know, it was just ice cream, you'll get another one another day, let's get to work. So those might be preset ways that you react, preset thoughts that you might have, but our end goal is to empathize, is to help the student understand that it happened. Things happen. So you might say something like, you know what, you seem sad. That makes sense. I love ice cream. If mine fell on the floor, I would be really sad too. You know, I get what you're feeling. So you know what we could do? We could spend a few minutes drawing, kind of relax. I'll help you clean it up, and then we can get back to work. So you're showing that empathy, you're showing that you care, you get it, and you're not devalidating their feelings. All right. So now we're going to take everything Jason and I just said, and we're going to put it in this nice, cute little form called the DNA method. So I do want to start with a disclaimer, reminding you that, as Katie said, you guys are all amazing, wonderful, fantastic, but we're not therapists. We are not trained to come in here and help the kids, you know, get through their trauma and to solve these issues. We're there to help them in the moment and feel that connection in that moment. And we just want to also remind you that if anything comes up from the students, once again, about any type of issues or abuse, please right away contact your coordinator. It's not something that you need to ever deal with alone. You should always reach out to School on Wheels and let us know if anything's happened. Also, one last thing is to let you know that just because you're coming at the student with this method and with this empathy, it's not an automatic way for them to open up. This isn't a magical thing that you're going to say this and it's all going to change everything. These are steps you can follow, but everybody has their emotions, everybody processes them differently, and everybody takes a different amount of time to get through them. All right, so let's get into the DNA. We're going to start with the first step. Just like we talked about, if your student's in survival mode, they're tense, they're not in the right state of mind right now. So you're going to want to help them calm down and get to a relaxed state, in a little bit of a more relaxed state. So this is when you want to describe what's going on. Just like I said with the ice cream, you seem upset. Your face is looking down, your shoulders are slouched, you look upset. And helping them understand that. When you're remote tutoring online, it's a great way to get the students' attention. So if they are looking down really upset, or they're kind of like frustrated, you could say like, you look like this. And they're gonna be like, what is she like, what are they talking about? Look like what? And bam, you just got their attention. So it's also a great way just to help your student refocus and remember that you're there for them. In this state, you're going to also want to remember that their behaviors physical cues are basically emotional signals. So the physical body language that they're showing expresses emotion as well. The next step is the N. This is where you're going to notice. This is where you're going to model the empathy. Notice what they're feeling and make that connection. So once you've helped them kind of take those deep breaths, get that eye contact from them. And it doesn't have to be eye contact. It could just be that their face is finally turned in your direction. They know they're safe. Then you model that empathy. That's when you start to say, you know, you seem really upset. I get it. You're upset because the work is really, really hard today, or you're really excited to play that game. It makes sense. So you're going to want to notice the emotion. Now that you've gotten the describing of the body language, the behavior, now we're going to notice the emotion, and then how can you empathize? How can you build that connection? If you don't know, make an educated guess on what's wrong. If you get it wrong, hopefully the student will correct you, and it'll be another way for them to open up. So if you say like, you seem really upset, did something happen at school? No. Great, you just got a reaction out of them, and now you could say like, oh, okay, thank you for answering me, and then moving on to ask more questions and to keep noticing. one thing I want to note about the next one we're going to go over is acknowledge, is that notice and acknowledge really go hand in hand. Sometimes they'll even be in the same sentence, where if you know what's wrong, so say for example the ice cream, that's when you could say, you seem really upset because the ice cream fell. I get it, that's upsetting. You wanted that ice cream, but it's on the floor now, so let's either clean it up together and get back to work. Let's play a game and see if the janitor's around. You know, there's different things. So an acknowledge is when your students got into that state where they're able to focus. They're able to make decisions with you. They're able to talk it out. Just like I mentioned earlier, you might not even be solving the problem in this step. It might just be refocusing to the work. So if, for example, they say there was a problem at school with somebody saying something to them, you're not going to solve that because we're not going to be able to communicate with the teacher. We're not going to be able to communicate with the family, but you're going to be able to solve that moment and help the student feel better in that moment, which is your overall goal.
Amazing. And so next, Allison and I are going to show you just a little example of what a conversation could look like with your student when you're implementing that DNA method. Allison will be the student in our example and I'll be the teacher. And so you can follow along with us and you'll kind of see notated which step is which as we go through it. And maybe just think about your own interactions with your students and how you might have seen this already and maybe what you can tweak and whatnot. So we're going to get into scene here.
I'm a student. Hi, Mr. Jason.
Hi, Sarah. So I noticed you're like really wringing your hands and your eyebrows look worried, kind of like this.
I forgot to write down my homework.
You know what? It's okay. You're safe. Let's just take 3 deep breaths. So 1, 2, let's get another one in there. 3. All right, there we go. You seem a little bit sad and worried, which, you know, I get. You wanted me to help you finish your homework, but you forgot to write it down. I feel worried too. We can either see if someone else in your class is around who you can ask, or we can call the school and see if we can find out. It's your choice.
Actually, Maria's in my class and she's right over there. We can ask her.
And scene.
Yes,
so
we nailed it.
So some notes. You'll see the first section is kind of where the teacher or tutor is describing what they see in their student. And the second little panel, they're just sort of noticing those things, helping them breathe through it. And in the last panel, they're acknowledging that they kind of too, empathizing that they too would have that issue. Please note that you may have to repeat a step over and over. I might have said to Allison, your eyebrows look worried, and she could have been like, my eyebrows look fine, I did them this morning. You might have to then go again and be like, okay, well maybe your eyes look a little bit something, right? And it's not always gonna be this clear cut. I found it myself difficult to know what's the right thing to say and when is not the right thing to say. So just know, just like everything else, these are things that you'll just have to keep coming back to, right? Don't feel down on yourself if you thought you noticed something, your student is like, everything is fine, leave me alone. Like, you just might have to repeat those things or reword things or go around them. Okay, so now that we practice our DNA a little bit, we can talk to you a little bit about what our summer program will look like. So Allison's gonna share some overviews with you about summer stuff.
All right, so first of all, with the summer program that we're implementing, we're going to be calling the lessons integrations. The reason for this is because our goal is to combine the social emotional learning and the aspect with the academic aspect. So we want to integrate both of those things into your session. The goal is that throughout your session, you're utilizing this DNA method to help the student stay focused and in that executive state, while maintaining those breathing techniques that hopefully they'll carry on after your sessions. And this is still going on while you're working on the various School on Wheels educational programs. So it might be the academic program, it might be the ABC literacy program, it might be the bus program, but throughout working on that, or even their homework, but throughout working on that, you're gonna be working on these social emotional skills along the way.
Oops. Okay, and so each week you'll be able to see how your sessions are broken down. And so each session sort of has 3 sections in it that you can follow along with. You'll begin with a general check-in, asking your student, how are you, connecting with them about the day. You'll be able to share with them your SEL character trait of that session or that week, which is like grit or mindfulness. And then you'll be able to introduce a quote to them that you can discuss and sort of facilitate where you're moving forward with. During your session, like Allison mentioned, you'd want to start with that programmatic work you have, or even if your student is fulfilling credits for the summer, you'd start with the homework, and then you would be able to utilize additional activities that we provide for you. And so those activities are just there to extend that discussion about what your character trait is or about what your integration is for the week. And then you would be able to conclude your session with a review of the SEL trait that you practiced or learned about. You'd want to remind your student about those breathing techniques, maybe even practice again on your way out. And then you can sort of just conclude with them and get prepped for the next week. So each week of your session should flow really well for you. You don't have to really think about like, what activity can I do for this trait? Where should I put it here? You can just sort of put it in where it can fit in, if that makes sense. And so each week you will get an email, which will tell you about, and that'll also help break it down. We just like to note that these are just a few of the sources that we utilize to share with you, just letting you know that lots of people are doing research about SEL, and we're so excited that we can be able to help our tutors with this skill set to help their students. And so at this time, I think Katie's going to help us with taking any questions that we may have. We'd love to help answer or clarify anything.
So far, we don't have any questions.
Was that good?
But everybody, please take a moment. If you do have questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A box.
And I also wanted to give a quick note at the end about our grade levels. We do work with a wide variety of grade levels, and all of this could be adapted to any grade. So any grade could use breathing techniques. You could teach kids fun techniques about like pretending to blow up a balloon so that they have those breathing techniques. You could teach older students meditation and yoga poses. So keep that in mind as well, that everything we talked about today is completely adaptable. The lesson integrations that Jason and I mentioned, same thing. We're going to have quotes for older students and quotes for younger students. And the lessons as well, we're going to have suggestions for younger students and suggestions for the older students. So our goal is to ensure that all students and all tutors feel supported and are getting that social emotional support.
So we are getting quite a few questions about the slides. First and foremost, I will address these. Yes, we're recording this webinar right now, and the recording will be available on our website within the next few days. This is our first time using Zoom webinars, so it's going to be a new process, but I'm assuming it's going to be pretty easy for us to get it on the website. And we will be able to make the slides available for everyone as well. I can have Jason send me a copy.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that people are asking is they want a little more clarification about the summer activities, the emails that they're going to be getting. When will that happen, and what are those going to look like?
Okay, so the emails are going to start on Monday, and our goal is to give you a general overview of which character trait we're working on that week. So be it gratitude. So say, for example, if it's gratitude that we're working on, we'll give you a little description of gratitude and link you to the different activities and link you to the website. So that website's going to have those activities on it too. Everything has been adapted to PDF as well, so that it's going to be working with the Big Blue Button remote tutoring. We do give suggestions on activities that they can do in person as well. So if they have paper on hand, it could be adapted. So on Monday, the emails will go out, the first email will go out. It'll give you a general overview and the links to go to the website to get the full information.
We have another question. Allison displayed a chart comparing the traditional versus conscious discipline. can you go over the second row about how connections govern behavior?
Yes. So if you, Jason's going back to it just so I can make sure I see the wording and make sure I get it totally right.
There we go.
Okay. So when we're talking about connection governs behavior, we're talking about helping our students understand empathy. So if they're understanding empathy as well, it's going to allow their behavior to be affected by that empathy. So if you have that connection with someone or anyone, you're able to understand emotional reactions of others. So say, for example, you have a student who, I did read in the comments, someone was living in a car. So that student, once they start feeling some type of connection, that it might, to themselves even, it can govern their patience. It can help them feel connection to their surroundings and maybe find ways to refocus. So the goal with that connection is general, a connection with your own feelings and your emotions, and a connection to what others might be feeling and emoting. And this way you can, it'll govern how you behave and treat yourself and how you react and behave with others.
Thank you, Allison. Chris Smith asks, what do you suggest for students that are restless, not because they have a problem, but because they are antsy and would probably want to be playing instead of doing schoolwork?
I would say for me, in my general day-to-day, I try to set up each session and show students where they have breaks for things. That way they can look forward to what's coming next and not just constantly think, when is this going to be over? We can always go back to say, oh, don't forget, we have to work now because in 5 minutes we're taking a stretch break. Or don't forget, what's coming up next is we're going to be able to do the hokey pokey dance before we finish up, like whatever it may be. That has sort of helped me in my own interactions to dispel some of that antsiness in some of those times.
And for myself, in talking with tutors, I've actually gotten a couple great ideas from them, and it's making the conversation active. So if you're asking a student a question, you could say for every yes, jump up and down. For the no's, spin in circles. Math problems, they can act it out. You can even ask them, do some reading and say like, oh, okay, well, the character did this, can you do that? And kind of making the activity interactive as well. And going back to those breathing techniques I mentioned, not sure how old the student is, but good breathing techniques that include movement is telling the student that they're a hot air balloon and they're getting bigger and bigger as they breathe, or little things like that. So it gets those arms moving and gets that energy out in some way.
And also just to know, even a big part of SEL is helping our students be able to recognize their own emotions and regulate those emotions. So oftentimes I found students, I'll say, why can't you concentrate? Bored. And they have nothing else to besides to say like, oh, I really am uncomfortable with math because it makes me think of this. So even implementing some of this skill set will help them to be able to better verbalize to you how it is that you can help them learn.
All right. So if there are no further questions, oh, they're still coming in.
One came, yeah.
Any ideas on how to deal with frustration resulting from network issues that happen often, especially given these that cannot be controlled?
This is fun. This is definitely a new thing that has come up. I actually have a cool little connection you can make. So we've told students before, or I'll joke around with the tutors and they'll tell their student, you know, we're all machines. We all work on some type of energy. We're all trying to feed off of something, and same thing for the computer. Its energy's not working right now. The electricity it's trying to get is not working. So it's really fun and interesting to kind of connect what students feel to what the computer's doing and make it so that it takes away from the general frustration. And it's like, you get frustrated too. How do we handle it? Okay, well, the computer's frustrated, so it's shutting down. What can we do? Let's give it a minute to rest. I'll see you in 2 minutes. So making that connection, and also making an agreement right off the bat of what do we do if these troubles go up? So if, for example, it's freezing, do we do a dance after and pretend we froze with it? You know, make it a part of what you're doing and be aware right off the bat that these things are going to happen, and what do you do when they happen. So just like we were talking about, what's going to trigger. Does it trigger the student when they're talking and you're frozen? You know, what kind of hand signal can they do? Like, can you hear me, or something silly? So being able to kind of take those frustrations and reframe them, but also recognize them and how you can handle them at the same time, because we can't control those. We can't fix the internet sometimes, but we can control, just like that, our behavior and what triggers us and how we handle it.
Awesome. One more question, and then I think we will be wrapping it up. So, sorry, one of the questions says, thank you for this great presentation. It was really helpful. I am tutoring a 5-year-old girl, and I noticed she forgets what we talk about almost immediately. I think this might be because it's hard to focus, especially through a computer. So it's very easy to get distracted. Do you have any tips for that, especially given that she is so young?
Yeah, 5-year-olds forget a lot.
A ton.
Right. So my first idea that immediately popped into my head is for the tutor, if possible, if you have like a big piece of paper or something you can have next to you, and always have that writing and write on it, so that even if it's not on the screen, it could be next to you. Even if you're close to a wall and you can have it taped to the wall, where maybe 5 years old, it could have the ABCs and you're constantly pointing at it. So constant visuals are really going to help, because if they're having a hard time verbally, then they have a different learning style. They might need that visual. They might need something that's going to get them active. So switching up the way you're presenting the information is always helpful. I would also suggest YouTube is a great resource for videos that are interactive. So I know there's a website, ABC Mouse. They have great videos about doing math, but dancing at the same time. And that kind of, I don't remember the physical word for it, but I know like a mnemonic device where you come up with another wording for it. There's those physical actions that kind of help you remember. Muscle memory, kind of, in terms of what you're learning as well. So making sure that you're adapting to their learning style. So whatever you're doing now might not be helping to click. So coming up with visuals, coming up with activities, even if you have to, no joke, I've done this with students before, every 5 minutes, take a break and say, what did we just do? I've done it before. You have to do it. And kids don't notice it's been 5 minutes. They're happy to just be talking sometimes. And even if you have to stop and say, what did I just say? What did I just talk about? Really gets them going. And another fun trick real quick is instead of saying, what did I just say? I might even say, okay, did I say that we're going to take out our paper and we're going to jump up and down 20 times? Or did I say we're going to take out our paper and fly to the moon? And it gets the students kind of once again thinking and refocusing and pulling up that information, and it trains their brain to pull up that information in the future too. So train the brain to reconnect to those thoughts, train the brain to see what the learning style is, and hopefully with your student, one of those will help.
I would also like to take a moment to plug our podcast.
As you should.
I've been doing a lot of interviews with pretty experienced online tutors recently, because I know, you know, a lot of you who are not online tutors are sort of just diving into this world for the first time. And some of them have really excellent tips and tricks for keeping students focused, for maintaining engagement and attention, and also the stories they tell are just really sweet. So yeah, I highly recommend. You can find it on our website on the Tutor University page, which is the new name for the page where we have all of our webinars, all of our podcast episodes, and various resources for you as a tutor to sort of enrich yourself. So that is it. That's all the questions we've got for now.
Thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank both of you so much for you know, working on this program and for taking the time to chat with everyone. I know especially right now, considering everything that's going on, social and emotional learning is really something that's going to benefit our students immensely. So tutors, everyone here, thank you so much for attending. Don't forget to log your hours. You can log, I mean, don't forget to log your hours in general, but you can log your time here as an other session, and that counts towards all your hours. As I mentioned earlier, the recording from this webinar, along with the slides, I will get them from Jason. They will be available for all of you to access on our Tutor University page within the next few days.